The air on the distant mining colony of Krothos 9 was thick with dust and tension. A storm of ash swept across the jagged cliffs, throwing shadows over the empty streets where abandoned machines groaned under their own weight. Among the ruins of the old city, something unusual moved, a figure so massive that even the largest human machinery looked tiny beside her. She was an alien giantess, her skin shimmering with a strange bioluminescent glow, eyes filled with both fear and defiance. They had called her a monster, marked for death. Every interstellar hunter and bounty crew knew her as the prize they could sell for unimaginable wealth. But they didn't know her story, they didn't know her power. Her name was Kalira, last of the Thrinari, a race once proud and feared across galaxies. She had survived the genocide of her people, hiding on this forgotten planet while waiting for a chance to strike back. But every day brought more hunters, each one closer than the last. Today, she would have to fight or die. Meanwhile, in the shadowed streets, a human named Yarok moved cautiously, his pulse quickened by more than fear. He was a salvager, known for scavenging the most dangerous ruins of Krothos 9. But he wasn't here for profit. He had heard the rumors about Kalira, the stories of her incredible strength and intelligence, and something inside him stirred. Something told him he couldn't just walk away. The first scream shattered the wind's howl. A squad of alien hunters, weapons glowing with lethal energy, appeared on the ridge. They moved fast, calculating every step, ready to capture or kill. Kalira's massive form towered over the terrain, yet she seemed calm, almost resigned. Her eyes scanned the horizon, searching for a way out, but there was none. Yarok stepped forward from the shadows, heart hammering. He had no plan, only instinct. "You don't have to fight alone," he shouted, raising his hand in peace. Kalira turned, surprised by the tiny human's courage. For a moment, she hesitated, a flicker of curiosity softening her guarded expression. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not as a weapon, not as prey, but as someone who could understand. The hunters saw the hesitation and surged forward. Energy blasts ripped through the air, carving the dust into fiery trails. Kalira moved with impossible speed, her massive limbs crushing the ground beneath her. Each swing of her arm sent hunters flying like ragdolls, yet there were too many of them. For the first time, fear gripped her heart. Yarok didn't hesitate. He activated a small, experimental energy shield, the prototype he had scavenged from the ruins. It wasn't much, but it was enough to deflect a few of the blasts aimed at Kalira. "Run," he shouted, pointing toward a canyon that twisted through the cliffs. Together, they moved. Kalira, though enormous, followed Yarok's guidance, leaping over chasms and smashing barriers with her raw strength. Every moment brought new danger, but Yarok's quick thinking saved her from traps she couldn't even see. As night fell, the hunters regrouped, forming a circle around them. Kalira's glowing form cast an eerie light over the canyon walls, shadows dancing like ghosts. The wind carried the metallic scent of weapons and the faint whisper of her own panic. Yarok realized that brute strength alone wouldn't save them, they needed a strategy. "Follow me," he said, pointing to a narrow tunnel barely visible in the rock face. Kalira nodded. She had no choice but to trust him. The hunters advanced, their voices filled with malice. Kalira roared a deep, vibrating sound that shook the ground, but it only seemed to enrage them further. Inside the tunnel, the air was cold and damp. Yarok's heart pounded as he guided her deeper, toward an abandoned defense station. Panels flickered with forgotten power, screens showing maps of the surrounding terrain. Yarok's mind raced. He had a plan, a desperate, dangerous plan, but it just might work. "We can trap them," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "We can make them think you're gone, and strike back when they least expect it." Kalira's eyes softened again, almost human in their emotion. She understood the stakes, and for the first time, she trusted someone outside her own kind. Together, they prepared the station's old defense systems, wiring energy conduits to create traps for the hunters. Every wire, every panel, was a gamble, but Yarok's knowledge of the old tech gave them an edge. The hunters arrived, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they were greeted by a maze of energy fields, collapsing walkways, and sudden bursts of automated defenses. One by one, they fell, their arrogance replaced by terror. Kalira moved through the chaos like a force of nature, striking only when necessary, conserving her strength. Finally, the last hunter lunged at them, weapon raised high. Yarek pushed a lever, sending a controlled shockwave through the floor. The hunter was thrown back, unconscious but alive. Kalira looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting both sorrow and resolve. When the dust settled, the canyon was silent, except for the faint hum of energy fields. Kalira turned to Yarek, towering over him, yet there was a softness in her expression. "Why did you help me?" she asked, her voice resonant and melodic, carrying both gratitude and curiosity. Yarek shrugged, a small, wry smile on his face. "Because no one deserves to be hunted for being strong. And because I knew you could survive. But not alone." Kalira studied him, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a bond forged in the heat of battle and the shadow of death. For centuries, she had been marked for destruction, feared by every species that knew her. Yet here was a human, one small, fragile human, who had changed her fate. Together, they looked out over the canyon, knowing the hunters would return, but also knowing they would be ready. Kalira's immense power, combined with Jarek's cunning, made them an unstoppable team. The galaxy might have tried to mark her for death, but the human who had saved her had changed everything. As dawn broke, painting the horizon with hues of gold and violet, Kalira and Yarek began to plan their next move. There were others out there, others who would hunt, betray, or fear them. But they had survived today, and together, they would face whatever the galaxy threw at them. For the first time in centuries, Kalira felt something she hadn't dared to hope for: safety. And perhaps, in time, even trust. And as the light of Krathos 9 touched her shimmering skin, she realized that her story was no longer one of fear and death. It was a story of resilience, alliance, and the unlikeliest friendship the stars had ever seen.